Yeah, we're back. This is iCarly. 1-7. Yeah, so we're factoring with complex numbers. It's going to be a hard lesson because factoring is hard. What's our objective for the day? Quiet raised hand. Looks like Andrea's first.
Factor sum of squares with complex numbers.
That's it. And it seems like it should be pretty easy because it's so easy to say, but it's kind of hard to do. Yeah, so it's going to be 50 XP to Andrea. Should we look at Kaylin's picture?
Can we send
There's
her a
Kaylin.
picture?
We can totally take a selfie and send it back to her.
Okay.
She misses us.
Was that
We'll do it at the end of the lesson. All right, so a sum of squares, before we couldn't actually do that, and now we can. But let's go ahead and start with difference of squares, because there are three things that are going to be on the homework. Difference of squares, sum of squares, and trinomials that have high degrees. I want to review all of them to make sure we're ready for the homework. So, difference of squares. Oh, look, I have a square. See, it's a square. And a square, and it's a difference. It's subtracting, so difference of squares. We all nod our heads. Oh, that makes sense. Okay, now raise your hand if you can remember what the formula is for difference of squares when you factor it. I assumed not. James, are you okay? All right, so I will factor 4x squared minus 25 for us. And you will see that it is correct. The answer to this one is 2x plus 5 and... there it is, 2x minus 5. What is that called? What are these things called?
What's it start with? I feel like I know.
You want to give us a hint?
We talked about the complex C word.
Conjugate.
Conjugate, so it's a conjugate
Pair.
pair. There it is. Thank you, Stego. Yeah, it's a conjugate pair. The answer for a difference of squares is always a conjugate pair. So does anyone want to take a stab at the formula for trying to factor this thing? Quiet raise hand, Eva.
Yeah. A plus B times A minus B.
It is that simple. So one thing to note here is that you're not really subtracting 1. It's not 2 minus 1 to get a to the power of 1. You're really dividing by 2. So 2 divided by 2 is 1. 2 divided by 2 is 1. So invisibly, I'm doing this in the background that I'm dividing by 2. So can we write that down that I'm really, we'll draw an arrow to this, dividing by 2. Divide by 2. What I'm really doing is I'm taking the square root, or I'm unsquaring these in order to get them back into their form. So that'll make this next one a little bit harder. And Teflon, did you get Eva's XP? No. All right. Yeah, she got 50 XP. She got the answer. So this one is going to be a little bit tricky. Let's see if you guys can get it. 1, by the way, is a perfect square. 1 times 1 is 1. So 1 is a perfect square. This is, again, going to be a conjugate pair. But what is that conjugate pair? With a quiet raised hand, who wants to take a stab at it? Gio?
3x plus 1. 3x to the third power minus 1.
You got it correct, yeah. Good job.
Yeah, Gio.
Yeah, that was hard. And you got it. That was amazing. Yeah, so notice that it's not 3x, just x. You have to divide 6 by 2 in order to get to the power of
Do you
3.
divide both by 2, the coefficient and the...
So you square root the coefficient and then you divide the exponent by 2. Again, what you're really doing is you're square rooting this whole term. So square rooting will square root the coefficient and it will divide the exponent by 2. Questions? And maybe you want to write that down. Maybe you want to say square root the exponent. And I'm going to write it down maybe for next year's notes. So square root the coefficient. And then divide power by 2. That's a good way to remember it in terms of words. And then it's a conjugate pair. And I guess we should write out that vocab word because it's kind of important. These things that we're dealing with are conjugate pairs. I'm going to spell this wrong. Conjugate, it looks right, pair. Conjugate pair. Conjugate just means you're switching the sign in between. Instead of a plus sign, it is a minus sign, and it's a pair because there are 2 of them. One is a plus, one is a minus. There are 2 of them. So far, so good?
Yes.
All right. And that it should be kind of a review. This is the new stuff. Before, whenever we had the x squared plus 16, that didn't have any answers. Again, if I think about this graphically, don't write this down unless you really want to. X squared plus 16 is, well, there's x squared plus 16. It's all the way up here. The answer of x squared plus 16 is wherever you cross the x-axis. Well, look at that picture. Does that cross the x-axis? No, so we said that there were no answers. We're allowed to have answers now. If we look at the imaginary plane, the shadow of this function, we can see that there is an answer, and it's using complex numbers. So now that we're in complex land, the shadow realm, we can factor this thing. And I will give you the formula. I'll do it in red because it's important. This is the most important thing that you're learning from today, and it is this. A, blah, 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 blah. A, blah, 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 blah. Anyone want to take a stab at what the two signs are in between here? Shout them out. Negative and, ooh, take a guess again. Positive, yeah. It's a conjugate pair again. But the difference now is that it's going to be BI. BI. You have an imaginary number in there.
Can I give you XP?
Yeah, let's give them XP. That's it.
Oh.
It's a conjugate pair. And it works out. If you actually multiply them out, you should get b squared. I times I is -1. So negative times a negative times a positive is a positive. And that is positive. Okay, so I mean, I did that in my head. You can trust me, or if you don't trust me, you can go out here to the right-hand side and be like, I don't trust you. So here we go. I can go A minus BI, A plus BI, A times A is A squared. Negative BI times A is negative ABI. This is going to be a positive ABI. Oh, look, those cancel out, and I'm left with B squared, I squared. Sorry, negative b squared, I squared, and I squared is -1. Negative times negative is a positive. You do get a positive b squared. We all believe Mr. Sandell now?
Yeah, I believed you the first time.
You shouldn't have. So I always make the comparison that math is often taught like religion. Like I say something and you have to believe me. That's how religion is taught too. You should challenge me. Obviously, you probably want to move through this fast and not have to think about it too much, but think about it. Challenge me. Why is that true? I should always be able to explain it somehow, and I just did. Okay, so who can use our fancy-pantsy formula to factor x squared plus 16? Who can do it? Quiet raised hand. Who can factor x squared plus 16? It's very similar to factoring your difference of squares. I have one hand. Can I get two? Can I get three? Can I get three hands? I only have two hands. Can I get three? I'm looking for three. I have a classroom of 6 because 2 people are missing. By the way, can we all say hi, Fiona? Hi, Chris.
Hi, Fiona.
Hi, Manuel.
Fiona's going to be watching this in Paris right now, I believe. So we're jealous. Oh, London? I don't know where in London she is. It's not Paris.
Yeah, sure, yeah. Sure,
All right, so that is a correction. Okay, so we're going with Teflon. Thank you.
Is it x minus 4i?
And
And then x plus 4i.
you are correct, yeah. X plus 4. It's another conjugate pair. And Teflon, give yourself that fancy XP. That should be 50. Let's try a harder one.
We don't have to. No, really, it's fine. It's okay.
It's harder because I put bigger numbers, but it's the same formula. Who can do it? I should be giving this to whoever has least XP.
Ooh. Who is that?
Who has least XP in this class? Who needs the XP most? So, Stago, you get first dibs. You want it?
Can I do half of it?
You can do all of it.
Well, I don't know how to do the first one. I just know it's either
Give it a shot.
9x to the power 5 minus 10.
And?
And then 9x to the power 5 plus 10.
There it is, yeah. Nice.
Where the eyes at?
Oh, I. Wait, 10 minus 10i.
Okay. I give Gio the XP for finding the student error. Let me come back here and...
Wait, what?
Find the student error?
Yeah.
Good job, Gio. Way to say alert.
Where's all of us?
Yeah, there it is.
What?
Are there any questions with the sign language letter Q? I need to make a poster for that because everyone keeps forgetting how to make a Q.
Yeah, in Mr. C's class we have
Fiona was
water,
going
So you have to,
pen,
3 fingers like make a gun, and then you pinch down.
Make a gun.
That's
There it is.
violence right there, Mr. C.
Miss,
I mentioned a what word at the school?
Ow.
Okay. And then trinomial. So this guy, we know whenever we see a trinomial, we should be using Ninja Star. There it is. Yeah, so use a Ninja Star. You can probably Ninja Star this in your head. What times what is 6, but also adds to 5?
3 and 2.
3 and 2. So this is going to be something, something, 3, something, something, 2. And then the tricky bit is getting this first part correct. So both of them are positive 3 and positive 2. So what goes here? It's x to some power, but what power?
4.
It's 4.
Oh.
Why is it 4, Gio?
You take the middle.
If you can explain it, I can give you the XP.
Wait, do you take the middle?
That's a good way to think about it. Yeah, you think about the middle. X to the power 4. Let's just give Gio and Sego both the 50 XP. And that's how you factor it. So just know that you're taking the middle power here. That's where this 4 came from. Another way of thinking about it is, again, you're really taking this thing and you're dividing it by 2. If you're taking the same rule that we had up here, you're just dividing it by 2. That's exactly what you're doing right here. You're just dividing this by 2. So if I come back here, I can write an arrow. Divide by 2. There it is. I mean, that's all the new stuff that and all review that you need. But tonight's homework isn't as easy as just factoring. You're finding equivalent forms, which is even harder. So we have 2 examples, one on the front, one on the back. The back one is kind of hard. The front one is also not as hard, but hard. All right, so example 1. Let's go ahead and factor this as if we were in Mr. Sindel's class. How do I factor that? First, GCF. Always, always first do GCF. What is the greatest common factor of these 2 terms? Andrea? X. So let's factor out an x. What's left over when I factor out an x, Andrea? X squared plus 9. Hey, that guy looks familiar. It's a square and a square. Oh, it's a sum of squares. Oh, if I go back up to my notes, there's a sum of squares. Look at that guy.
Wow.
Woo.
So it's B.
So let's go ahead and factor x squared plus 9. Is there a quiet raised hand that can follow off of Andrea's 50 XP that Teflon got? Is there someone else that can now factor a sum of squares? Don't forget your x out front. That was the GCF. Is there someone that can now factor x squared plus 9? In fact, if I was being careful about my notes, I should have moved this right there. X squared plus 9 is now equal to x times the quantity of something, 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 something. Say go again.
X plus 3.
Careful. There it is.
I wasn't done.
Yeah, thank you, Stego. There's your conjugate pair. So that is the answer, and that is one of the answers. But the problem with Khan Academy is you have to choose all possible answers for tonight's homework.
I think it's just.
Yeah.
All right, so let's choose. Is A an answer?
No.
No, they forgot the I's. Okay, so it's not. What about B?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What about C?
No.
It could be. We don't know. We have some random subtraction happening, which means it's not factoring. They just want us to multiply these all out.
It can work.
So let's see what happens. Let's multiply these all together. What's x plus 3 times x plus 3? I just want to do this part right here.
X squared plus 9.
X squared plus
6.
6x plus 9.
Oh, no, we gotta do a ninja star.
Do you have to no,
And then I still have to do minus 6x squared. So I've rewritten this problem. Let me make sure that we're all on the same page. That x didn't move. That's still here.
It works.
That negative 6x squared is still right there. Now we need to distribute this x into these 3 terms and then subtract 6x squared. Gio already has our answer. That is the answer. I mean, this is an equivalent form. So look what's going to happen. X times x squared is
X cubed.
x times 6x is.
6x squared minus.
Wait, there's no 6x squared up there.
Oh!
And then x times 9 is.
9x. And then it's the same thing.
Good job, you saw it fast. It doesn't really matter that you found it fast, but I'm impressed that you got it. It's not about speed.
Wow.
So C is also an answer. What about D?
No,
Nah,
that's just
What?
completely wrong.
What's wrong with D?
there's no negative, so
Yeah, it's not a conjugate.
It's not a conjugate. Yeah, there it is.
My lord.
I mean, you could actually multiply. You could actually multiply them out if you wanted to see that it's not the answer. You would get x cubed minus 9x. So if you want to write this one out, this one would have been x to the power of cube minus 9x, which is close. It's just not the answer that we're looking for. All right, let's go to a harder example. We're on the back.
Wait, I have a question. To get the middle, the x squared plus 6x plus 9 thingy,
Yes.
that's because you would do the Punnett squared thing.
Yes, the Punnett square thing, the area model. Yeah, exactly.
Oh,
And that's where the 6x would come from. Yeah, I'm sorry, I should have been more thorough on that.
Do you have a charger for this?
I do. What is it at? 1%?
2.
It'll last the class.
Oh.
The charger's right here.
Says that.
But I don't think it'll
Yeah,
reach
so I just
up
did
to
it.
you.
Yeah, not reaching.
I have a USB extender. I should probably get it out. Okay, let's do example 2 nice and quick so the iPad doesn't run out of battery. Which expressions are equivalent to that trinomial? Oh boy, a trinomial. So trinomial means we're doing what?
Ninja star.
Ninja star. Can anyone do the ninja star in their head? 9 and 20?
5, 4.
Oh, that's easy. Okay, so that's going to be equal to something plus 5, something plus 4.
Can we yell it out?
Yeah, yell it out.
X to the power 4.
There it is. X to the power 4, x to the power 4. All right, well, this guy doesn't look like I can do anything with him. Kind of. Khan Academy likes to go even farther. But this guy is what? What is the name of this binomial? Sum of squares. Because 4 is a square, x to the power 4 is also a square. So that means I can now go even further with this x to the power 4. So x to the power 4 plus 4 can be factored as what?
X squared
Minus.
2i, right?
And then minus same thing with the minus.
Yeah, exactly. And then you can leave the x to the power 4 plus 5. But I'm going to leave this as a blank spot because Khan Academy will do something special with him.
Why?
Because what we're really doing is we're taking the square root of 4 to make the 2, right? So what you could do is, we'll get there in a sec. I'll leave it at that for now.
Okay.
A, is that an equivalent form?
Oh,
Yeah.
That's exactly what we put right here. That's just not very, not factored enough. So A is one of the answers. What about B?
Yes.
That's what we just got right there, right?
Oh, yes.
I'll pause here. Just digest for 10 seconds. Make sure you're following. Digest the math. Okay, let's move on to C. Is C an answer?
Let me know.
What's wrong with it?
It's not a
It's not a conjugate pair. This is plus and plus instead of plus and minus. So yeah, C is not an answer. They forgot to do a conjugate pair, so let's not do C. What about D? So take a look. This second two linear terms are the same as these two linear terms. Well, not those. These two linear terms.
Oh, it's
But what is happening over here? What are they doing on the left? They're somehow changing this x to the power 4 plus 5 into
They did the
this.
square root thingy. Like they went as far. Even though 5 is not a perfect square.
Even though it's not a perfect square, they still square rooted it. It is an answer because, just like we did over here where we have x squared plus something times, I ran out of room here. Let me move over to the left a little bit. This is x squared plus something and x squared minus something. What you do is you always have an I, and then you take the square root of 5. Just like we took the square root of 4 to get 2, you take the square root of 5 and you get the square root of 5. So square root of 5i, square root of 5i. You're allowed to do that, it's just not many people actually do that.
They shouldn't.
It is kind of weird. Like if I were in charge of Khan Academy, I would throw that in there as a curveball, but it shouldn't be on the test or the quiz.
Yeah, I agree.
So A, B, and D are the answers. Are there questions about example 2? It was a little bit more difficult.
Nope.
All right, you may begin on Khan Academy. Do not do the summary yet. If I catch you doing the summary, I know that you are not falling down the curve of forgetting. I want you to forget, and then tonight do the summary so that you remember. Go back through your notes.
Well, I did forget the other.